Hello and welcome to another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. I am your host, Jose on the mic, and with me is the lovely, amazing dancer, Amay. How are you doing?
Excellent, and I'm so excited to be here.
We are here. Corky Ballas. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
This is part of the Legends series, by the way.
Okay, yeah, this is continuing our Legends series.
The royalty of dance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay, go. No.
Yeah, like, what do you want me to say?
Okay, no. Oh, he's being humble.
Oh, he's being humble? Is that what it is? Yeah. Well, there's no time for that.
Okay, right. So we were just talking about this, about, coming from a dance family. Your dad had a studio?
Yeah, back in 1960, my dad was he was the president of Fred Astaire Studios.
President?
He was the president, yeah. And he had a studio that was...
Do you elect those, or...
Pardon?
Do you elect him like that, or is that...
Oh, well, the corporation...
Oh, the corporation kind of works its way up there?
They hired him to become the president. But before that, he was his job was to open an Arthur Murray in every state. So just as a little history lesson, the first franchise in American history was Arthur Murray Dance School.
How about that?
Very first. And his best friend, Howard Johnson, opened a hotels. A second franchise was Howard Johnson. And then later, Casanave, he signed Fred Astaire, the real Fred Astaire, got to use his name to open a chain of dance schools, and they headhunted my dad from Arthur Murray to open a school in each state also. And he became the president of that company in 1960. And pretty interesting, back in those days, one of the largest schools nowadays have about 25 teachers. Mm-hmm. That's a big school.
That is a big school.
My dad had 125 teachers.
Wow!
And it was about 65,000 square foot dance
in
dance
one
studio.
school.
It was like a Costco with a ballroom in it. So anyway, that's the meat section. I kind of grew up in that. I grew up seeing the dancing, and not really realizing I was young, but my dad was the guy who brought all the Europeans in for the first time, and they did their showcases. His guest parties was a 15-piece live band.
There you go.
That's what his guest party was.
That's how he rolled.
And it was A through K Wednesday one, and then L through Z the second Wednesday, because they couldn't get everybody in there at once. It was crazy.
I remember being at a Fred Astaire like that, where the students were assigned
that's awesome.
It was
either
amazing.
Tuesday or Thursday, right? So we could
125.
125 teachers, and then they all took off to New Orleans and other schools. He sold it. My dad sold the school, and then he invented the weed eater.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
So what else do you do when I invented weed eater?
Yeah, he was an amazing man. He really was. And so then I wanted to come to competitive dancing, and
this is a great story.
And he said to me basically that, you're going to put all your time, effort, and energy in this, and, what's it going to pay you back at the end of the day?
What are you getting for your effort?
What do you get for your effort? Like he says, because, when you're a dancer, you're putting in, 12, 14-hour days when you're trying to win or get in a final or...
Sure.
Plus you have to teach on top of it. I'm not saying you're practicing all that time, but, practicing, when you're teaching, let's say, our typical day, we'd teach 10 lessons and then we'd practice. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty hard, because then you're in a terrible mood by the end of the day. And then you have to put up with
hungry.
And you have to put up with this mammal standing in front of you making this face.
Of the opposite sex.
Did I say mammal or animal?
It depends on your mood.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Sure.
It's a two-way street, and so that's kind of the hard part. So what we did is we had Mark right in the middle of our career. We had just made the final Open to the World. Moved to England from Texas. Culture shock.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just finally scraped into the final, and then we had Marky. And then we went down to the semifinal. That was tough to deal with. Mm. And then everyone says, "Oh, if you have a kid, it's done. You're over. You're never going to get back in." But that didn't seem it didn't bother me. But the result was kind of like, wow. So it took us about a year to claw our way back into that final.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
So yes, we finally got back in the final, and 13 years later, we finally won. 13 grinding years. And I started dancing really late. I'm talking about competitive dancing. Even though I was around dancing from a child, that does not mean that you dance. Not international Latin style. That's a whole different discipline.
Yes.
Just like any type of dancing. So, I started at I guess 21 years old. I was a late bloomer. So yeah, to eventually finally win a couple of times and make every major final in the world, not bad.
I think pretty good, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So you had to
pretty
really
good.
push through with a lot of negativity, right?
Oh yeah, I especially moving to Europe, I got the negativity. It's like
American, right?
Well, it's no different than these sports channels. They, you get on the ESPN and they rip Tom Brady apart. He's only the best quarterback on the planet, 5 Super Bowl rings, and they still rip the guy to shreds. So
And he's got a hot wife.
He's got a beautiful wife, 2 lovely kids,
Yeah.
8 Super Bowl appearances. I mean, how many people play football and never get to go to 1 Super Bowl? This guy's been to 8.
Yeah.
And so my point is, the dance business is no different. It's people are critical of you. They call themselves the analysts. But I used to take that kind of that negative. I love negative. I love it because I just.
You're a little controversial.
Well, whenever one would say anything negative to me, I'd say, well, really, so what advice do you have for me to turn that around?
That's interesting you say that because I interviewed a world champion. I said interviewed. We were having a conversation, and I feel like it was an interview. But he said, if anybody ever comes up to you and criticizes you and you haven't asked for that information, then just ask them, okay, what can I do then to...
Yeah, how do I fix it?
Oh, and
if they can tell you...
You always get a blank face when you flip the question. It's blank. It's like... Yeah, so that's it about 8 out of 10 times.
I was going to say, yeah.
Most of the time. Very few people have... I love criticism. Even if it's bad, even if I don't agree with it.
Why?
Why? Because I think that even if I don't agree with it, there's something in that person's perception that could be tweaked. Even if they don't like you, no matter what you do, you have some people that aren't going to like you no matter what you do. But still,
pretty much.
Hearing that negative criticism, what is it about that you could maybe improve? It's not going to change their mind, but it still could make the message clearer, or the behavior clearer, or whatever the situation is. So I do think that criticism, constructive or destructive, is good.
Wow.
Yeah. They have a point. That's okay. Well, I'll listen to it.
How do you balance that though? So, maybe some people will be taking too much.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a tendency to be overcritical of myself, but you have to come to a decision and think, okay, this is enough editing. I've got to put it on the floor now. And the thing with dancing, it's like you're painting in space. Once it's not like a painting that stays on the wall forever. You've painted this piece of art and it's there. You dance in the space and it's over, and nobody cares except you.
Minute and 40 seconds, you're over.
It's over. Yeah, really, it is, and that's a mentality that maybe that's the right mentality. If something doesn't go right in that first dance, minute and 40, move on. It's over.
That's behind you.
Second one, move on. But it's hard. It's hard to let go, especially if you miss a connection, or you miss a connection and then it knocks her off balance, and then she chews you out and all that. It's over. Next. And that's actually, I really believe that's true with life. I really believe, like when you said, like at the beginning of the interview, you said, dance royalty. I mean, to me, that was the past. I mean, I could care less about all that stuff. I'm only interested in now. I really believe that there's an expression: yesterday's history, tomorrow is a mystery, and right now is a gift. So I like to live in the now. I think we can learn from the past, but to live in the past, I'm not into that.
Yeah, can't do it.
I love technology, and the reason I love that is because it's in a constant evolution.
Yes.
He's speaking your language over here.
Well, that's exactly right. And it's like, hey, listen, you got these mics right now. In 5 years, there are going to be better mics out there.
Yeah.
You can't. Moving on.
Or it could be an RFID chip implanted in our skin that Bluetooth's in, and no wires.
No wires.
I mean, that's actually happening right now.
Sure.
Did you know that?
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
It is. Technology is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, there's a chip they'll be able to implant in you, and it'll have a Bluetooth in it, and all devices will connect to that.
Oh, I don't know if I like that energy inside of me.
Well, you may not, but it's
It's the future.
It's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the future.
So maybe you can find me if I get lost.
That we definitely could.
We're probably gonna do that. Well, the only problem with Bluetooth is after 30 feet it drops off. So
That's true.
Gotcha. But it is really exciting to have, people that you look up to, and we've seen you for years on TV, and the dancing and has inspired people. So I have a couple questions, but the first is who inspired you the most in dancing?
In dancing?
Yeah, or in life.
I think my dad inspired me the most.
Yeah.
As far as dancing, I know this sounds arrogant, but I didn't like anybody's dancing. So I
Did your own thing.
I did my own thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit...
Do people call you rebellious for that?
I think so. I mean, I didn't want to, art starts where copying stops. So I did not want to, I want to do my thing,
Mm-hmm. Well, you're a pretty big personality.
I am.
Yes. And so is Shirley.
Yes, she is.
But this is exciting for dancing, but I do think it's important for people to know how did two really strong personalities.
Well, that's why we're not together, Two fires don't...
they don't work.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't work. It was too explosive.
Uh-huh. But it worked for a while. It
worked
for a long time.
Well, when we retired,
Uh-huh.
then we were focusing on that goal, and then when that goal was gone, now it was just like, now what,
Uh-huh.
That's a tough one to deal with. You go from hero to zero like that. You're walking in a ballroom, nobody even says hello. I mean, I'm over exaggerating, but
Right.
when you're when you're competing, you're in the final. It's like, oh yeah. It's kind of like when I was on Dancing with the Stars. I lasted 8 weeks with an 82-year-old lady. Red carpet, doing the business, this, that. We got off that show, whack, zero. Like nobody cared.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing when it's the same thing when you're doing something at a high level and you retire. It's over. I mean, like, I love the NFL players. Like these guys, they suffer from the same thing. They're at the top of their game, and the next year, you don't know what to do. You're lost. That's a tough one.
32 years old and your career is over.
That's tough.
That is really tough.
And unfortunate for a lot of those poor guys, how about their career-ending injuries? So
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Some of them are done at 28 because they've got a terrible injury. It's just... So anyway, facing that reality. Sorry to get off on that. Sorry.
No.
That's
actually
exactly
But
the
it's
point.
so
Doesn't matter
exactly
if
the
you're
point.
stopping playing hockey.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. It hurts to hang up the old shoes. I mean, when I knew I wanted to retire, I was actually bored dancing. Like I was bored in the competition. I was bored dancing in front of a live audience, and I told Shirley, I said, you know what? I was bored dancing. She goes, really? I said, yeah. She goes, me too. I said, well, that's it. It's time to go, man. Let's go. I mean, I think we could have danced a couple of more years, but
that's
I don't believe you have the fire when you're doing it because you're just trying to hang on.
Yeah, that's a hard moment.
Tough.
Like when to stop, right?
That's when I knew. That's when I knew. Well, an NFL player, that either the body stops or they get injured.
But you knew because you were bored.
I was bored.
Something you loved to do, and now you're bored with it.
Yes. I was bored competing. I still love the dance business. I was just bored with the competition.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you don't have the fire anymore. You're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, but I didn't realize it till that I thought, why am I thinking this while I'm dancing? That's when I knew something. I'm looking at the audience and thinking, man, I just do not want to be out here.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
You were totally done.
I was done, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
So then when we stopped, we didn't have that anymore in common.
Yes.
And so now it was just, you realized how I can't think of the word to describe it, but there was a giant hole in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So really what was keeping us together was my son, number one,
Mm-hmm.
and then secondly was the common goal of dancing. Then after that, I had nothing in common with my ex-wife except my son. Because her world is dance. Well, I love dance, but it doesn't consume me 100%
To that level, yes.
And she's still like that. I mean, she loves it. Hey, I'm not knocking it, but it just was not
Not where you were at.
not where I was at. Not at that time. I'd already done that, so ready to move on.
Interesting.
So let's talk about Mark, your best creation ever.
Yeah, he's an amazing creation, actually.
He has got so many things that he's doing. He sings, he dances. That's not fair for all of that to be in one body. Singing, dancing, acting.
Well, we kind of trained him that way.
Chip off the old block.
I'm not going to say that I trained him that way, but he was, he went to a theater school, and they did acting, singing, jazz, and sent him to, guitar lessons, and just kept him really busy in those things. And then we later took Derek, and I took Derek when he was 10. And then we got Julianna a year later, and so the three children together,
They're like brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah,
Derek,
and the energy, the synergy of the three, because they were all into the same thing. They all loved singing, they all loved acting, they all loved dancing. So it was three kids that were really into all the same thing. So what do you think happened all day long in that house?
It's a show.
It's a
all
show.
The time.
It was a constant show. I mean, they had a little band, they would sing, they would dance, and then every weekend it was a dance competition. So, literally.
Wow.
Saturday and Sunday, ballroom and Latin. But the cool thing about it is the kids, you can't force a child to do something they don't want. That's what was cool about it. I didn't have to push them. They wanted to do it. So that makes it exciting when they want to do it. Now, they did have moments where they thought, oh, I'm sick of doing this. This sucks. So that's normal. And that's when you have to kind of push them through it.
Right.
I'll give them about a little break, maybe 3 days off. I say, okay, let's go again.
Go get the shoes.
But I think when it gets too much time off, then you're teaching the child that it's okay to quit. Now here's the deal. We did make a clear deal that if you do this, it's to the end. There is no turning back with that type of intensity.
Sure.
It was a bit louder than what I'm giving you right now, but that was clear. Derek, you're gonna live here. The minute you get off this, you're going back home. So that was good enough incentive for him to.
Right.
He didn't want to go back home.
And so, what was the incentive for Mark?
Derek's gonna go back home.
Oh, his
that was
buddy.
like a brother.
His brother. Okay.
But I have to say, it was Mark. Mark had to give the nod for Derek to come because that was my only son, and I didn't want him to think, what is this? So Mark was the man that gave Derek the nod, and then we reevaluated after 1 year, and Mark gave it the nod again. And so those three kids they're amazing. I don't have to brag about that. I mean,
right.
And I'm not bragging. It's the facts.
They're amazing. Is correct.
I mean, they're all great choreographers. They're all great dancers. They can all act. They can all sing. I mean, Marky's in Kinky Boots right now on Broadway.
Know.
He just finished Jersey Boys, so hopefully this will take him from one. I'm very happy for him.
Yeah.
And then he writes beautiful music with his wife. I don't know if you know, his wife is BC Jean, and she actually wrote the song "If I Were a Boy" that Beyonce sings.
Wow.
So she's a great writer. Yeah.
Wow.
So they sing amazing together. The name of their band is called Alexander Jean. So his middle name is Alexander, and her last name is Jean. Therefore, Alexander Jean. So
the house continues to be Showtime.
It's still Showtime.
That's awesome, though, man.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Their music is really cool. It's kind of like a Fleetwood Mac vibe.
I love
Oh, okay.
that.
Yeah.
A little old school
He's
there.
really, really good at the guitar. My son, really good.
Have to catch his show.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Absolutely.
There's some stuff on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely going to look him up.
Well, I already have seen lots of it.
Oh,
Yes,
have you?
you should.
You didn't share it with me, so
I'm
there
sorry.
you go. There we go.
Okay, so what are you doing now?
Well,
since you get bored with things.
Well, I'm doing things with. I don't really want to say what I'm doing now.
Okay.
But you will know what I'm doing now pretty soon.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
With
I got a teaser.
Well, I'll tell you this. It has to do with streaming, teaching people how to dance, and just the way that I'm going to attack it is what is you'll find out soon enough.
Oh, awesome. All right.
And I know people are going to want to get knowledge from you.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I'm also creating some type of a virtual experience for dancing.
Wow.
So that's kind of cool.
So you really do like the technology.
Oh, I think technology is amazing if it's
Yeah.
used correctly.
Sure.
The artificial intelligence, the way it's moving now, is pretty amazing. You can be, nowadays, you can be called by a computer and you think you're talking to a human. You don't even know it's a
machine, yeah.
It'll respond to you and it'll ask you questions, and pretty fascinating.
Still, the real live girl is the best, right?
But you don't. But that's the point. You don't. When you're on the phone, you don't know it wasn't live. You think.
Someone to argue with.
I'd rather have it that I could put it on mute.
There you go.
You know what? I don't mind the arguing. I'll tell you what. I don't mind arguing, but when it's the same argument over and over, that's when I'll give it a few tries.
Yeah.
But when it's the same stuff over and over.
So yeah, I heard you the third time. Cool.
Yeah. I wish there could be a mute button. Because rehashing the same stuff over and over, that's like a squirrel in a cage running in a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hamster on the wheel.
Yeah. It's annoying.
How about advice on good communication?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if you could ask me about advice on good communication. I think, I actually think that that's a funny one.
He said it.
It's like, maybe I'm not the one to ask.
I have to say, here's the deal. If I have to nail everything down to, say, good communication and a good relationship, one word: compromise.
Yeah. Pick your battles.
So that means let's run to the middle of the bridge and meet halfway.
Sure.
If we can't agree, meet me halfway. Compromise. I mean, if I would have done that, maybe I'd still be married to my ex-wife. But there was no compromise. So that's my advice to.
That's the simple one. Hey, man.
Well, I think
meet me halfway.
Yeah, just let's meet halfway. If you can't agree, meet me in the middle.
All right. Well, sir, we are going to let you get back to your project.
Screaming,
Okay.
not screaming.
Not screaming.
Not screaming, screaming.
Corky, man, it was great to see you.
All right, thank you so
You're
much.
a ball of energy, dude.
I love it.
Awesome.
Corky, thank you so much.
My
really
pleasure.
Appreciate you.
The lovely May.
Thank you, Jose.
All righty. Well, folks, this has been another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. Thank you for watching.